What's going on, guys? Today we're talking about Jurassic World Chaos Theory Season 2. Right off the bat, I think one of my quick complaints, and it's not bad, it's not an indictment of the actual plot of the show itself, it's more of the structure of it. I really think this show would benefit. I think I've talked about it before. I think this show would benefit greatly from the episodes being longer. We have like the anime 23-minute blocks of time episode structure, and I get that that works for like the target audience, which is like kids and teens. Like, I don't know, what's the target audience? Like 12 to 16 or something like that. I get that that is like for short attention span. You fill in those little blocks, but like, dude, it's being dump released on Netflix. Okay, all of it coming out on Netflix the entire season, so it's not like it's fitting into any TV show time slots. The 20 or so minute episode lengths really do affect the quality of the show, in my opinion. That's just a big complaint right off the bat. It just makes every episode feel way too fast, and it makes every diversion that isn't really like main plot focused, or just kind of seems like a little like side quest that's ultimately superfluous. It makes it feel even more so when it's like, well, we just wasted 6 of the minutes of this episode dealing with this, like in the first season, dealing with this Triceratops at the gas station plot. For what reason? Just to delay the main characters. There's so many things where it just seems like they're just trying to delay the main characters, which I get it. It's part of like driving the plot forward, just put some obstacles in the way, but these obstacles don't do anything. Like they might be saying, oh, we're serving to establish these characters and how they would react in these scenarios. We know how they would react. We're 7 seasons deep into these characters. We know these characters by now, okay? So I don't know, just a quick complaint. That was one of my biggest things about this is I'm watching, and that's honestly, it's a complaint, but it is a praise of the show that I just want these episodes to be longer. I want these scenes to last longer, to really stew in the moments. Instead, we're just go, next scene, and it just gets obnoxious. So the way that I was watching the show, I was taking notes for every single episode. Now, basically, it's like I'm outlining the plot as I'm going, and I'm talking about things that stand out to me as we come across the moments, and kind of like my first thoughts on that thing as it happens. So this may be a little bit messy, maybe a little bit disorganized. I'm just kind of emailed myself the notes I took from my phone. So this is basically my reaction as things are happening in the order that they're happening. So episode 1, one of the main things we see first off that stood out to me is how Kenji is not coping well with his dad's death. His dad's brutal death. Now, immediately you got to think about Kenji, what he's going through right now. Brooklyn is dead to him. Obviously, we know Brooklyn's alive from the last episode of the first season, but to him and everybody else, Brooklyn is fucking dead, killed by dinosaurs. Finally got her. He feels like Darius was trying to mess around with Brooklyn because she stayed with him for a little while, and there's some tension between the two of them. Now his dad just died, and now they're on this other like goose chase thing to deal with whatever, all this other conspiracy, dark dino web stuff, and he's not coping well with his dad dying, but he's showing it in an overconfident, overzealous way, where he's taking risks, he's making his jokes, he's doing all the masculine, like, man doesn't know how to deal with his emotions, coping by compartmentalizing it and just being the levity for everybody else, essentially. But he's also taking risks throughout all these early episodes, and in season 1, where I'll go get more lettuce. Like when they get on the boat, he's like, yeah, I'll go get more lettuce. And while he's out there, he stares off into the ocean. You can see he's totally disconnected from everything, and he's thinking about all this shit that's happened, but he's trying to put it on a strong face. He doesn't know how to handle it. And he comes back and he's like, oh, I didn't get the lettuce because he threw it overboard. He was so emotional. He dropped the lettuce. He didn't throw it. He dropped the lettuce into the water just to see something in front of him, just to have that little bit of control. He just looked out into the water, the ocean that can't be tamed, on a destination he can't control, and feeling like he's completely barred down because they're stealthing on this boat, so they can't like even have the freedom to walk around freely or whatever. They're packed into this container, and then he's holding this head of lettuce, and he just drops it into the water. Whether he's letting go of his emotions, he's letting go of these ties that bind him, he's letting go of that sense of freedom, he's letting go of his agency, or he's just dropping it to feel in control of something for a brief moment. And then he returns, lettuceless, And they kind of chide him for it, and then he goes like, all right, I'll go back and get more. And then as he goes out there, we kind of stick with the crew a little bit, and they are naming dinosaur calls that they hear while they're sitting in the container. They're like, oh, that's a donka-donka-donkasaurus, that's a piki-baka-dukasaurus. And then they hear a different sound that none of them can quite nail down, and they realize it's a dinosaur that they don't recognize the cry of. And Kenji's out there just kind of fucking around. He's stealthing into the actual, like, the cockpit of the boat and tries to steal some Lay's potato chips, right? And I'm not going to go over beat by beat. It's just kind of like that's the scene. That's what we're kind of starting off with. And I don't know how when we advance through the day a little bit further, once Kenji rejoins them, they're all kind of hanging out and chatting. We kind of skipped ahead to nighttime, and it's pouring rain in the middle of the ocean. And obviously, in the middle of the ocean at night, it's dark as an abyssal black anyway. And now it's raining, so it's even darker. But the rain's also catching any amount of light, right? So they're sitting in this container. They're like 3 containers high, stacked or whatever, between dinosaurs. And they're sitting in this one with the lantern fully on at night in the rain. And I'm thinking, like, my notes, how do they not getting caught? And then immediately, okay, they just get caught because one of the guards heard a noise. So they get discovered. And the man who's, I think, like the captain or whatever, I think, what was his name? I have it in my notes somewhere, but I'll see it later. He immediately goes straight to murder. He immediately is like, all right, we're going to lock them in a shipping container and throw it overboard. Jesus. This is what I'm saying. Like, yeah, the show may be geared towards kids, but this is not a kid-friendly show. They are constantly trying to murder children. I don't think that the implications of that are sinking in with Timmy No Thumbs, who's 11 years old, watching going, that dinosaur. But like, they're talking about dropping these kids in a container into the middle of the ocean and letting them fucking drown. Crazy. When the storm's going crazy and everything's kind of like shifting, going nuts, they kind of like bargain their way out of it by saying, hey, we can help you because we overheard that you guys are low on staff on the boat. There's very few of you and you need all hands on deck to deal with the storm. So he goes, fine, kids, I won't drown you in the ocean. You can help me instead. Which is like, okay, sure, man, whatever. And there's one box one crate that kind of toppled over as they're all kind of trying to secure the boat and secure all the stuff from shifting around, and this one container happens to topple over in front of Kenji and them, and the box happens to break open, and a briefcase, like Seto Kaiba's card briefcase, falls in front of Kenji. They open it and it happens to be the case that has Bumpy's egg in it from the first season. What are the chances of that? Which is just absurd. And that's, again, one of those things where, okay, it's a kid's show, they gotta move the plot forward. There has to be, like, all these coincidences, but come on, man, you couldn't have had a better way to have that, like, this box happened to fall, this box happened to open, and it happened to have the container that happened to have Bumpy's egg in it. Like, get out of here. It's so annoying. I see that and I roll my eyes so hard. But the big scary dinosaur that's sitting in the shipping container, a big scary dinosaur, not the one that they didn't know the cry of, is about to escape one of the containers, a big carnivore, because the shipping container's gate opened, and they're all looking at it like, oh no, this big dino's about to get up and eat our butts. But the thunder's kind of going thundery, so he's like, all right, I lay down, I sleep. So he curls up and kind of sleeps because he's afraid. Okay, cool. Problem avoided, so they shut that door and he's fine. Then there's another box where there's a dead dino in the box. What happened? What happened there? Why is there a dead dino in this box? The box was closed. And apparently, the captain's like, my god. And they declare that the Majungosaurus is killed the one that it was in there with, and now the Majungosaurus is on the loose on the ship, and he's big and scary. He looks like a 38 caliber snub-nosed pistol, right? And apparently, he's also an arsonist because there's a sudden fire out of nowhere. The boat is on fire. Sick. One thing about this is as they're kind of walking around in the boat and they're dealing with all these problems that are arising that seem to bloom out of nowhere, it just turns into like a quick horror scene where they're stalking around the dark, rainy ship surface and they're creeping around containers and boxes and stuff, and it's just like something about the atmosphere. It just works really well. I wanted to kind of call that out. It's a really good short horror sequence before things actually kick off again. My next note says, oh lord, it's weird. The dinosaur that comes out, the Majungosaurus, is weird looking. Like I said, bit of a snub-nosed pistol face. And a little weird inconsistency, I don't know if I just didn't notice while I was writing notes, but I wrote they just had the box with Bumpy's egg, like the briefcase container, and apparently now like they were just holding it, safeguarding it because they realized it was Bumpy's egg. And in the next scene we cut over and it's just like left stacked on top of a different box that's now in the middle of an engulfing flame. How did that get there? Who put that there? Cuz Kenji and then grabbed it and basically stapled it to his nutsack because he didn't want to lose it. But now we cut back to them after the horror scene, and it's in the middle of the fire on top of a box. I missed something, I guess. And then my next note says the Majungo looks like a thumb. Next I say, there's no way Darius or the Majungo are sprinting on that soaked ship without slipping. So the dinosaur's chasing them, and Darius is like, I'll lead it this way. So he starts running. This ship is soaked, it's tilting, and I assume it's really cold, and him and the dinosaur are running around on the ship chasing and being chased, and neither one of them is slipping. That's crazy. The dinosaur should absolutely, he's top heavy. He should be doing flips on that ship. And then Bumpy's briefcase goes overboard, and Kenji jumps in after the container and lands in the water in the middle of the ocean. And this harkens back to me saying he's taking unnecessary risks. I don't know if he's trying to prove his own worth to himself or to show everybody else that he can handle things so they don't question his little hiccups in emotion or something like that. I don't know how he's projecting, but no human being on the planet would dive in the water after a crate with an egg in it. I know it's Bumpy's egg, but Bumpy's not going to be mad at you, dude. You jumped in the middle of the ocean during a fucking hurricane. Literally no one would do that. It's a raging storm in the middle of the dark ocean, and the only person I can think of dumb enough to do that is Joey fucking Wheeler. To wrap up this episode, so much happened in this first episode. I mean, in my note, I say they need to slow it down because they're cramming so much stuff into a 24-minute time block. So to wrap up this episode, Kenji has kind of been acting like Dean Winchester in Season 3 of Supernatural, where he's like, I only got a year to live. What's the matter? I'm going to go run headfirst into danger. So he's just being ridiculous. And then we do get to see a video of one of the masked dino guys that we got teased at the end of the first season. And in the background of the video, we see Brooklyn just kind of standing there in the background. You're like, what the heck? Because I immediately assumed when I saw the dino mask that the dino mask guy was Brooklyn in disguise and using a voice changer. But nah, she's behind him in the video. So that wraps up episode 1. Let's move into episode 2. My first note says, I think I'm falling for Yasmina. I love her look. I don't know, I just think her character looks good with the bangs and like the little sides that come down, her hair up. I'm just like, wow, she looks great. And is she single? No, she's not. And also she's like 20 something, I think. I don't know how old she is. This show, what I've learned in episode 2, or what episode 2 really kind of cemented for me that the formula wasn't changing, is that the show just loved to create pointless drama for what feels like just to pad the episodes, which again doesn't make sense. Why are you padding the episodes when they're so short already? Because some of these scenes feel like, yeah, they're made for comedic relief, for levity, to slow down the go pace of things with a side quest. What I mean is we just saw a bunch of stegosauruses chilling with some farmers on Africa where they landed, even though they don't know where they are, and they don't know that the stegosauruses are chill with the farmers. So they see the stegos at the village, and they're like, we got to get them away from the village. So they move them away from the house. They distract them, they get them out of there, and as I'm watching this happen, I'm like, there better be a goddamn good reason for this. Otherwise, this whole plot of, we gotta get the stegosauruses away from the village is just a waste of fucking time. Thankfully, it wasn't a waste of time as we learn later, but that's just, as I'm watching the show, I have a distrust of these little side scenes because a lot of times they end up just being pointless, which is really frustrating after now on to the 8th season of the Jurassic World animated series. And immediately, my first inclination was, I don't trust the farmer mom. I don't know why. Something about her just made me feel like, uh-oh, there's something going on with her. I was wrong. She's fine. She's good. But I immediately, it was my first impression. I didn't trust her. And now, as I was looking at this, Ben was the one that saw the video at the end of the first episode of the masked dino, crypto dino bro, and he saw Brooklyn in the background of the video. And at this point, I'm like, why doesn't Ben just show that Brooklyn is in the video to his friends? And then I couldn't remember. Wait, I think he knew she was alive. I think I saw that in the season. Except I think I saw this scene in the season 2 teaser. So that kind of skewed my idea of like, wait a minute, who knows what about whatever? But no, Ben found out in the video that he sees Brooklyn, and I'm like, just fucking show your friends, dude. You have the video. Just show them. Look, this is Brooklyn, and this is from a week ago. Like, what are you doing? But he doesn't. He just hides it. And I know he's probably trying to, like, as we learn, he wants to get the proof, but, like, you have the proof. You have her on video from a week ago, dude. She's at least alive from a week ago. Come on. My next note says, oh no, the Stegosauruses were protecting the farm. Something from upriver is hungry. So, yeah, we learned from the village mom and daughter that the Stegosauruses were a protective circle. They were the anti-sea bear circle for the giant dinosaur that apparently is apparently upriver, which we find out very quickly is a Suchomimus, a big fucking lizard raptor thing that looks like it belongs in Star Wars. And as they discover this, and they're all running for their lives away from the Suchomimus, because it's like, oh shit, tasty little people things, I'm gonna eat these. And they're running, and I'm thinking, dude, they are not outrunning the Suchomimus. This thing is built for speed. This thing is like a sleek, sexy-looking sparrow from Destiny. This thing is fast. If fast as fuck was a dinosaur, it would be the Suchomimus. Just look at it. Look it up. We get to the point where like the Suchomimus thing, they move along. I can't remember, guys. I watched the episode a few days ago, but that part is resolved and they're safe, okay? And Ben is still not telling them. He's still looking at the video, replaying it over and over again. And I believe he sends a message to an account that he believes is Brooklyn and saying like, hey Dino, whatever, like, what's up? What are you doing alive, Pookie Bear? But he's still not telling his friends. He was about to tell them, right? He's going along through, and he's about to tell them, oh, I got this thing, and then he detracts. He diverts it completely. And I hate it, dude. This is, I'm going to make another Supernatural reference, but this is Sam and Dean manufactured drama for no reason other than the plot and to fill the episodes. Big fucking eye roll for me. My last note on episode 2, because I didn't take a whole lot of notes, was I like how at the end of these episodes, when the credits start to roll, that they actually show some concept art that's different from just the animation. It's actually 2D hand-drawn concept art, and a lot of that art looks really fucking good, and I appreciate that, and because all the artists need to, they deserve to have their art shown, considering it's just a CG animated show. The artists who did concept stuff like that deserve to have themselves be praised. Okay, so episode 3, we get flashbacks of basically what happened with Brooklyn and how, with her waking up realizing her arm is gone, how she was rescued by the lady from the DPW that knows Darius, and basically the events kind of leading up to the moment where she gets her arm bit off. She's sitting on the couch, she wakes up, her arm is wrapped, and she's like, oh no, I don't have an arm, and I have half an arm, and it kind of really hurts kind of really bad. And then as she's kind of sitting there pontificating on how she got here, we get flashbacks, and we see the moments and the days leading up to that accident. And basically, to skim over, we see Brooklyn just kind of treating all of her friends kind of like shit. She sees Kenji and she pretty much ignores him. She gives him half answers. She doesn't look at him half the time. She's on her phone. And then when Kenji's on a video call with a Nublar 6, or the Nublar 5 really without her, she kind of pulls up on her motorcycle and she's like, hey guys, oh, gotta go. She immediately gets a message or a call or whatever and has to leave. She's home for 1 minute in the trailer and then immediately has to leave. So, like, if I were any of them besides Brooklyn, I would be so fucking mad at Brooklyn. She treats them like absolute shit. And I'm sorry, I know she's like onto these leads, she's being like a journalist and stuff, but this is not how you treat your friends. You're entrenched in it, sure, but you gotta give your friends the time of day. You gotta give Kenji, who's your boyfriend, your love interest, the time of day. You're treating them like shit. I'm not saying you deserved it, but you deserve some kind of comeuppance, because come on, girl. Come on, girl. What is wrong with you? And my next note says, I know this is a flashback, but girl, put your phone away. Give Kenji some attention. And a lot of this just sort of ends up being contrived, with Brooklyn being up her own ass about all this stuff and kind of being delusional about the shit that she's doing, or at least she's acting like she's delusional and up her own ass to everybody else. She knows she's into something, and I know it's all for the plot, but it's contrived as hell, and it's contrived on purpose, and I hate that because it's just lazy writing. then she eventually, like, we kind of skip ahead a little bit, and she's now sitting with Darius at his place, and she's like, "Thanks for letting me crash," and he's like, "No, it's totally cool, whatever." And they kind of get into like an awkward, fumbling conversation where Darius all but says he loves her, but then he's like, "Oh, but I love all my friends equally, but differently, but." Yeah, I love you, but like I love everyone. And then it's just like this really awkward, like teen stumble thing, which is just bad. I don't like it. He literally does the, yeah, I love you, but except not. And then he literally says, unless. He does the unless meme, and it's so awkward and forced. And I know it's a kid's show again, so they kind of have to they have to hammer this shit home and make it like painfully obvious, like holding up a neon sign in your face. But God, come on, dude, have a little bit of respect for your audience. We're not stupid. So then she kind of leaves with a DPW agent, and she goes because the DPW agent is also now helping Brooklyn with some stuff because she's like, whatever. They're kind of like on the same side with some things that's been going on. So leaves with her and yada yada yada. So we kind of get caught up to the actual moment that those things happen, because at that point she's telling Darius, "Hey, I need you to meet me at this place at this time. We can't talk about it. Whatever. I gotta show you something." So she goes, and then we see the scene as it plays out. She's video calling, or she's sending him a video, sending a video to Darius, and then she gets chased down, and apparently it's a raptor that bit her arm off. We do see that there's a bigger dinosaur, but then it's actually a raptor that tears her arm off, and I didn't realize that unless I just misread the scene or I looked at it and if it looked wrong to me, I don't know. I guess a raptor bit her arm off, which makes sense because I thought it was a big boy dinosaur. So I was confused how it didn't chomp her in half and only chomped half her arm. I'm like, oh, that thing would have swallowed her whole. That thing, it would have been a vor scene on Rule 34. But no, it was a raptor that ripped her arm off, then got recalled, I guess. So, and then we see that Brooklyn cuts her hair and dyes it a different color. And this is just a personal thing. I like short hair on girls. I like almost all short hairstyles on girls. But it just didn't work for her. I don't think it fits her face shape. Maybe, I don't know. I think it was just a little too short. I just think her haircut was a little short and the color a little bit bright, but otherwise I guess it works. Just her old style was better. And then we get the return of Steve Blum voice acting some random NPC. Always love Steve Blum showing up in everything. He's the best. He's the GOAT. But it's another one of the agent dudes showing up to the DPW lady's house. I don't remember. I didn't write down her name. I'm sorry. Showing up to her place, and Brooklyn has to kind of hide from him like she's playing Splinter Cell as he kind of looks around and like touches her underwear or something like that, then leaves. And then Brooklyn leaves a note for the DPW lady, just like, "Dog, you ain't safe. Blah, 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 and I'll keep in contact or something." And then Brooklyn bails to go off on her own, and that is that. But her being alive is a point that frustrates me, because the DPW lady is like, "Tell your friends you're alive. I saw them. They cried because you died, girl. It's sad. Tell them you're alive." And Brooklyn's like, "Nah, ain't gonna." And it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, it does and it doesn't. It doesn't make sense because, like, emotionally, that's really frustrating, and I hate that. I hate that a lot. But also, I know it's just the plot of the show, so they have to have a reason for her not to, and it is to, like, keep them safe while she continues to, like, try to figure out who the broker is and what they're doing and take them down legally, which is just like, girl, you survived a dinosaur island for 6 seasons. You're home, dude. Just fucking enjoy your life, man. You don't need to get into all this. So I know that if she went and told them that she was alive, that they would not leave her alone, obviously, and that would be great, and they'd obviously be a risk because of that, blah, blah, blah. But it is just brutal to leave them thinking that she's dead. I hate it. I hate it so much because I'm a sympathetic, sentimental, emotional little boy. Now, episode 4. I didn't take a whole lot of notes for this, but let's see what I got here. Let's try to refresh myself. We get to see Brooklyn actually wearing the mask of the dinosaur freedom fighter group people, and they're like going around to these farms at night, liberating the farms, kind of like what it's actually exactly like what we saw in the Jurassic World, the most recent one that came out, whatever, where they were releasing, I don't know, those fucking live action movies are dog shit, but where they're releasing dinosaurs from farms in the middle of the night. So they're doing that, and they're like, whatever, It's fine. They're a bunch of goofy goobers. And then we switch back to the Nublar 5, and we see Ben just looking at the phone, replaying the video and stuff like that, trying to hide it every time they get close. Like, hey, Ben, what you doing? He's like, he freaks out, juggles the phone, pulls it to his chest, and goes, nothing. Like, he just got caught looking at, like, fucking Charlotte Web porn or something. I know he just wants undeniable proof that she's alive. But like I said before, dude, you have a fucking video of her from a week ago. Just show them the screenshot. That is enough for them to be like, oh, she's alive. Let's figure this out. And you'd all be on the same page of let's go figure it out. And as they're sitting there on the island, as they're sitting there on the farm trying to figure out what their next move is, and after they got the Stegosauruses to return and like guard the encampment again, they dealt with all that stuff last episode or the episode before and blah blah blah. Ben's at the boat that the life raft thing that they actually escaped in, or were given the life raft from the boat. I didn't cover that, but again, I'm not covering everything beat by beat. But Ben finds a tracker, and it's really frustrating because he doesn't chuck that thing as far away as he can from the farm. I don't know what he does with it, but he brings it to the farm and goes like, guys, look what I found, instead of like smashing it or throwing it somewhere else to lead the trail away, because it's a fucking tracking device, dude. Go throw it into the ocean so they don't know where you are. That's really annoying. And then we switch back to Brooklyn, and the dudes that she's with are fucking dweebs. She's playing them all for fools. She's pretending to be part of this freedom fighter dino release thing, but she's obviously using them to get closer to the broker and what she's trying to do and learn about stuff. She's whatever. And they're just dweebs. Like they're totally the group that goes home after work and plays the Beatles rock band together. Those kind of guys. And then we got introduced to a dinosaur named Geba, who's one of the pet dinosaurs from the mom and the daughter at the farm. And Geba gets fucking nabbed, right? And we see Kenji beatboxing to Stim. He's doing whatever have you. And then Kenji gets walloped, and they take the eggs because of the tracker. The tracker led them to you. So it takes the eggs, and now Geba the dinosaur and the eggs are missing. And voila, here we go. My next note says, that dude saying time to shine made him my hero. What a Chad. My notes are all over the place. So we see that the Dino Freedom people are apparently also murder hungry, and they were planning, once they were kind of made and caught by some people that they were on the farm that they were liberating, they caught them, they blindfolded them, and they were planning on leaving them in the middle of a field for the dinos they're going to release to stampede over. They were just going to leave them there to get run over by a bunch of dinosaurs. This show loves to want to murder. And I feel the need to point that out every time because this is a kids show and everyone's trying to murder everyone. There was a whole plan for the dino people to travel to, they were trying to get their ins with the broker people and whatever, and get on a boat that would then take them. I think Brooklyn was convinced them to basically take the next step to go international and take their dino liberating operation to a specific region of Africa where she could get closer to the broker and her operations based on all the intel that she has and that she knows. Editing Chris here. Actually, I make this note later. I fix myself later, but they're actually going to Dubai, not to the section of Africa that the Nublar 5 are in. They're going to Dubai so she can get closer to her loft wherever she lives. And then so they got in with that, but she got the passcode and she got ahead of the Dino Liberation people and got on the boat herself without them, and now she is on the way. Now, episode 5, my first note is saying, as sweet as it is, these people, as in the Nublar 5, the daughter and the mom from the farm, are way too lovey and supportive of each other. It drives me nuts. That stuff is nice to see. But in a show like this, again, where we have such short episodes where they cram so much stuff in, and then we take a break for a fast forward sequence of them going I just want to support you. I like it when you support me. Hug, and then they hug, and it's ugh, fucking, bleh. Come on, guys. It would be so much better if you didn't have to cram this stuff in, and just compressing it into a little ball of mushy lovey, and it's just, it comes off bad when it's so forced and fast like that. Ben is still hiding things, and my note just says, Jesus, Ben, just tell them. Because obviously it's going to be too late at some point, or whatever have you. And then we switch back to Brooklyn. And I believe at this point they're trying to like move up the river to figure out where they're going, where the dinosaurs are being taken, because they've discerned that everything that's happening for like the big dinosaurs being released and everything is coming from upriver. And now with Geba being taken and now with the briefcase being taken, they're like, well, we gotta go upriver. So they get on some canoes, fucking little boats, and they start heading upriver. Okay, we switch back to Brooklyn, and we see that she got the message that Ben sent. What will she do? But she doesn't respond. She doesn't do anything. And keep in mind that their names are like, online aliases or whatever. So it's not like Ben sent the message to Brooklyn. It's Stoner Girl 66 got a message from Big Beefcake number 9 or whatever. So she doesn't respond to it. She kind of closes her phone. And then we see that she's currently door dashing her way into the broker's apartment. She's walking in there with one arm and a short sleeve shirt, carrying a brown paper bag like, yo, who ordered Chinese? You got the dipping sauce. She knocks on the door and it works. Like, she gets into the apartment and she's just in the apartment now. It's like a big loft. Like, it's one of those places where it's like 85 floors, and she rides an elevator to the floor and it just opens up into somebody's personal living space, I guess. So she's walking around as if there wouldn't be security cameras, and as far as we know, there aren't. But she's walking very confidently in a futuristic world where security cameras are the size of my pee hole, okay? And she just doesn't care. She just walks around. And then immediately, of course, the elevator opens and we see a lady walk in to her own domicile. And they're just like, oh, hi, DoorDash? She goes, oh, this is the wrong floor. I was supposed to deliver to the floor above you, whatever have you, blah, blah, blah. Then eventually the lady is just like, hey, you look kind of cool. Sit down, I'm going to paint you, because the apartment's full of paintings. So Brooklyn sits down, I guess, even though this would never fucking happen. You know she would look at this lady and go, this is the broker, I gotta go. Even though she can't prove, she doesn't know that like where she is the broker's like sweet pad. But she would not hang around in there like that. Brooklyn would fucking leave. But no, she sits in the stool, she poses like there, and they start talking. And my first note says, this lady seems okay, but of course I should be skeptical because it's a fucking beautiful woman in a TV show. So obviously she's going to be important. Then we switch away from that, and we see that Kenji is yelling at Ben to like go faster up on the river, and this really bothered me because it's like yeah, go faster up the river. We need to keep up with him. We need to catch up. We need to go get Bumpy's egg or whatever. Dude, just switch seats and you do it. Because Ben's getting distracted. He's like manning the motor and the steering, and he's looking at the phone, waiting for a message back from Brooklyn, and he's slowing down. And Kenji starts yelling at him. I said Benji, like it's fucking, was Benji from different property? I don't remember. And he just like starts yelling at him. It's like, Kenji, just switch seats. You do it. Why is this a thing? And again, that's probably just adding towards like he's emotional. He has all this pent up stuff, so it's kind of being released at random times in random ways, but whatever. And then they kind of get to the point where there's like this Brachiosaurus in the water standing in their way, and they pull up and there's a camera angle where you kind of look up to the Brachiosaurus. And my note says, I want to live my life as unbothered as that Brachiosaurus. He's just sitting there chewing on some leaves, does not give a fuck, does not care, and it's great. And something that really bothered me is when the Brachiosaurus like are moving in the water and they're stepping, the stomping sound is way too loud. It's way louder than it should be, and it doesn't sound like it should. Like when you're stepping in water, the water is absorbing a lot of that stomping sound, and it dissipates it, and it makes it more bassy and deep, and doesn't reach as far because the water muffles it, right? No, they're walking in the water, and it's just normal. Like, no, that doesn't make any sense, and that bothered me way more than it should have. But then we switch back to Brooklyn, and we see the lady pull out a little fucking Roku remote and presses a button with a laser pointer and aims it at Brooklyn, and then all of a sudden a velociraptor comes out of nowhere and just starts snaking around Brooklyn, and she is freaked. And they animated it so well. They did so well with the actual voice actor doing all like the panic, like muffling noises and whatever, like how she's conveying the character and stuff. And it is so tense, like so fucking tense. And I know that if I was Brooklyn, even without the context of having this thing already ripped off my arm, because I'm pretty sure this is the raptor that did it, I would be shitting myself. Because there's a raptor 1 inch sniffing her and going, you want to play Fortnite? Is what this raptor's doing. and she's freaking. And obviously we reveal that this is the broker. And we kind of go back and we see that the raptor is the one that attacked her, like I said, and in the flashback, and we see how she was handling that scene. We see that scene play out in more detail with the raptor in context, right? And how they handle, again, the character animation and the acting is so very well done. It's a fucking incredible sequence. And then we see her face in present day. The trauma is plain to see on the character, and it is so good. And we keep cutting back and forth because obviously it's a tense time, and we see that Kenji is still so confident, and his joy is getting on my nerves. He's just like, he's the dude who's like standing at the helm of the ship going, "Ahoy, mateys, up ahead over there, yar." He's not actually doing that, but like that's the tonality of his character right now, and it's so fucking infuriating and annoying. I just want to slap him. But Brooklyn does manage to get out of that scene. I don't remember how she does it, but she basically like knocks the remote out of the broker's hand and like throws a vase in the raptor's mouth, and she ends up she judos her way out of there, gets onto the elevator, and is going down the elevator, and she's free. So she calls Ben, and because since he reached out to her, and I don't remember what she tells him, but I don't remember if she tells him anything at this moment, but she calls him, and shit is getting fucking real officially. Now we jump into episode 6. We're getting there, guys. I know this is a long one. They do a really good job at showing what anxiety is like, because we start off this episode with Ben having just ended a call with Brooklyn, I think, where she basically tells him to like fuck off and leave her alone because she wants them to be safe. So like, don't tell anybody I'm alive, I'm doing this thing, stay away from me, you'll be in danger. And then basically hangs up really quickly, and she deletes the account that she was that they were able to communicate through, and just distances herself further. And we see Ben as the anxiety is hitting him, and this scene is really good. They did this really well with Kenji when he saw his dad die and that panic attack that he suffered from, and just the anxiety through that. It was so well done. Whoever was doing all this absolutely has experience with anxiety, because how we see Ben handle it, again, I can't really describe it. It's just so good. And then he kind of snaps back out of it really quickly. He kind of like stumbles his way back into a conversation as everybody else is doing whatever they're doing in the scene. I don't remember. And as they're on the water, they get back on the water and stuff like that, and they're like heading up the river. And Ben's kind of still trying to figure out what he's supposed to do. Everyone's trying to figure out what they're going to do when they go upriver. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, why don't we ever see regular animals anymore? We only ever see dinosaurs. And then a fucking hippo shows up. A hippo pops out of the water. I don't know what this note is. It says hippos would fuck up a tree. I don't know why it would fuck up a tree. I think that was a misspelling. I think it must have been a mistype. But hippos would fuck up anything, okay? Hippos fuck up everything. And the hippo's attacking them because they're on the water. And it's like mouth is open, and it's like getting ready, like it's tilting the boat. Ben's gonna fall in, and then Kenji grabs Ben because he's about to get eaten by the hippo. And when Kenji grabbed him, he lost hold of the phone. Ben drops the phone, it goes into the hippo's mouth, and then Kenji's like, "I got it," and then he's about to reach into the hippo's mouth, and then I think Yasmina or someone just like, "What the fuck are you doing?" and then grabs him and pulls him back. And then the hippo snaps its mouth shut, swallows the phone, and dips back into the water. And then Ben obviously is freaked because he just lost his only lifeline to potentially show them that Brooklyn's alive with a video, show the audio call or something like that. And he lost all of his evidence and proof, and now he obviously has no way to communicate with her. And this again illustrates that Kenji is just being reckless because he almost dove into a hippo's mouth to rescue the phone. So of course the phone's eaten by a hippo. Just as we get to this point, of course it was. But I'm still sitting here thinking, why is Brooklyn so invested in all of this? What is her reason? I talked about it before, but you get back from the island surviving this stuff, you get submerged, you get subsumed by all of this dino conspiracy, black market dinosaur stuff as like a journalist point of view, as a reportive point of view. But like, what is your goal? Just to expose it and to take them down? Why do you care that much? Like, you're not an activist for the dinosaurs. you should be the furthest thing from an activist. I guess maybe psychologically you would kind of do a double 180 or like a whatever, like you would flip around to actually wanting to be a conservationalist, but like what she's so invested in it that she went through all this shit and that she chose to stay dead instead of tell her friends. Like at that point, dude, when you lose your arm, you just go back to your friends and say, guys, shit's fucked up out there and I want nothing more to do with it. Let's just like be chill and you'd all be fine. You should just live your life with one arm and blah blah blah. So I understand she has her motivation for wanting to do with it, but it's like also just choose a life of safety after everything, man. Just relax. So anyway, they get upriver and they kind of park it on the side of the shore, and there's like a little like booze hut, fire camping place, and the little girl, Zaina, I think her name is, I don't remember, I wrote it down somewhere later on, is like, oh, this is my uncle's place or whatever, but there's nobody there, so they get a little bit worried, and so she calls her dad on her phone, and dad's like, yeah, he's probably just taking a vacation because it's a slower season, whatever. And then as they're kind of walking around, Sammy walks into the hut to look at some stuff and touch like the glasses and whatever, and she sees some legs. There's a dead dude at the pit stop, and they're like, oh no, we got to get out of here, this place is not safe. So they kind of regroup. And I'm going to lose my mind at this point, apparently, I wrote down, because everyone's trying to talk about the dead guy. Yeah, Sammy's trying to, like, guys, we gotta go. She's trying to say that. Kenji's talking about his shit. Ben's trying to, like, figure out how to talk about Brooklyn. And Yasmina is mediating, because everyone kind of is, like, talking at Yasmina right now all at the same time in very vague, tangential ways. And she's like, and it's about to reach a boiling point. And then guess what? Interrupted by a pterodon. But wait, the pterodon gets interrupted by something eating it. So the pterodon pops out of the trees, just like, nah, I'm a pterodon. And they're like, oh, that's a pterodon. And then something bites its legs and pulls it down. It's like, oh, I was a pterodon. And then it gets eaten. So this show if it loves to do anything more than take detours from the plot for insignificant things, it loves to have somebody about to say something important and then they get interrupted by some manufactured bullshit and some danger, being chased by a dinosaur, whatever have you. Happens constantly and it's so annoying. So it's that Suchomimus from before, from the village. And now it's terrorizing them. And we cut away from them as they're all running away from the Suchomimus trying to survive. And we see Brooklyn now in the broker's apartment waiting for her to come back. And she's sitting there, arms crossed, all confident, just like, well, looking at her. And then they kind of start talking back and forth to each other. There's obviously a stalemate. And then we switch back to the Suchomimus. And with the Suchomimus and the hippo start fighting. Dude, I felt like a Rock'em Sock'em Robots. It was so sick. The hippo showed up, rolled up his sleeves, was like, I got this, Holmes, and joined the fight. And everyone starts getting hurt. Kenji gets knocked to the ground and he hits his shoulder. Yasmina gets literally bitch slapped by the Suchomimus' tail and gets knocked out. And then they kind of got separated. There's like, oh, whatever, we're all gonna meet up, and they all get onto the boats while they're distracted by the fighting, and they leave. But one of the boats. So let me back up a second. So Sammy, Zaina, and Ben, I think, were all on one boat, and they start leaving, and then Darius and Kenji were like, go, we'll catch up with you, and they go, all right, and then they just leave. That would never happen. And then Darius and Kenji get onto their boat, even though they thought they'd spoke to Yaz before, and Yaz was like, I'm getting on the boat with them. So they thought that Yaz was on their boat or whatever. How it happened, they thought that Yaz was on the other boat. So all the boats leave, and they're separated from each other, so they can't confirm that Yasmina's not with either one of them, because Yasmina got tail whipped and is unconscious. So they leave her without realizing it. Switch back to Brooklyn, and she has the laser pointer, and she's threatening the broker with the laser pointer. And then it's just like, I got you now. And I don't get it. So Brooklyn, you're not trying to specifically take down the broker, but you're trying to like blow up their whole operation and get them legally shut down by getting the evidence you need and providing it to the fucking police. Like, Dog, you know the broker's been doing this shit. You've been watching her all this time. You know her crimes. You can kill her. You can literally have the raptor kill the broker and then aim the laser pointer at the window on the 85th floor and make it attack the window and dive out the window and fall to its death, and you are golden. You didn't have to do anything. You could have just killed the broker. But no, what do you do after threatening her with her own dinosaur? You give her back the laser? I know you're trying to bluff a partnership kind of thing, like you could have killed me, I could have killed you, but let's work together because now we're on the same page. Even though hours ago you were literally shitting liquid ass on the stool because she was threatening you. Come on, dude, this sucks so hard. I hate that. And I guess maybe I'm not reading it right, or somebody on YouTube could explain it better to me. But from what I was just watching, it's like, this sucks. What are you doing? You have her literally dead to rights, and you could kill that raptor by throwing it out the window, by making it yeet itself out the window, actually. But no, you give her back the laser pointer so she can kill you because she clearly wants you fucking dead. Yeah, that whole broker thing infuriates me because she literally wants you dead. She tried to kill you once already and she could have killed you again. The only reason she didn't is because you managed to get lucky and escape, and now you give her the tool to kill you again. So, anyway, and now with their new quote-unquote, their tentative partnership, she says that she's sending Brooklyn to Senegal, Africa, which is where the Nublar 5 are, to go do whatever she's going to do. Shit, so now they're actually converging. And then we switch back and we see Kenji and Darius are on the boat together and they're about to have a bro moment, but no. So Kenji and Darius didn't have the bro moment, and then once they catch up to each other, they realize, oh no, Yasmina's not with them. Episode 6 done. Moving on to episode 7. Alright, so sorry if the audio quality sounds a little bit different. I'm recording this a couple days later because that was a 50-minute recording session, and in between then, I've actually gone through and done some mic adjustments to a lot of settings and stuff, so if I sound a little different, that's why. So we're picking up on episode 7, and we are in Yaz survival mode. She's been left behind. The others are up on the boat. I think they've only just noticed she's gone, and they're trying to figure out how to get back. So last she saw, there was a Suchomimus and a hippo battling it out. They were doing rock'em sock'em boppers, and unfortunately, the hippo lost. The hippo's dead. I call bullshit. That hippo would have absolutely chomped that thing in the chest or snapped its neck or just bulldozed it. There's no fucking way the hippo lost. Stupid. Anyway, so the flashlight, there's a flashlight that they were struggling with before that they used it to like blind its eyes or whatever have you, and they dropped it, and Yaz sees the flashlight and she's going to try to grab it, and she goes over to pick it up, and the Suchomimus is like curling up and going to sleep, right? She has to step over the tail, but she can't. So she picks up and she moves this fucking dinosaur's tail. The audacity. What are you doing, Yaz? You cannot just walk over there and pick up this dinosaur's tail. How would it not notice? Also, I don't know how many nerve endings they have in their tail, but I think it's more than one. So, anyway, so she gets the flashlight. She goes and crawls up onto, she climbs up to a big tree. She sits down, she takes a breath, and as she gets up there, she turns on the light, and there's a bunch of Pteroraptors. Some raptor pterosauruses, the ones with the heads, whatever the hell they're called. The ones with the heads. The ones that look like they have a T-Rex for a head. So, after that, so she drops down, trying to escape from them, because they're going to rip her apart, which wakes up the Suchomimus. Now she's running for the Suchomimus again. She cannot catch a break. It has been 7.5 minutes since she woke up, and she's already fighting for her life again against this thing. Switch back to the boats, and Kenji is just breaking down. He is reaching his limits, and which, you know, sure, I totally agree with that. You should be reaching your limits, but also too little too late, man. You've had plenty of opportunities, and you keep pushing it off, and then they get distracted, and we see that the entire time before this, they were arguing, or rather Sammy was arguing, the fastest way to get back to Yasmina, my girlfriend, is if we jump on land and run through the woods. Dog, it is nighttime and you're in Africa. Do not do that. And they're all saying, no, we're going to take the boat. And Sammy's being a little bit irrational, but obviously she's emotional, so it's understandable. A lot of upholds right there. So then they see that there are lions on the shore, and they're like, okay, we're not going to go on land. It's a good thing we didn't do that. And Sammy apologizes later on, and she takes her time to really apologize for overreacting. Like, she was so gung-ho to not waste a single second getting back to Yasmina. And then now when she's apologizing, she's like, I'm really, really sorry. Sometimes, touching her fingertips together, my emotions get the better of me. It's like you don't have any time. Okay, you have been pressed for seconds this whole time, and now you're gonna pause for 2.5 minutes straight and just apologize. Fucking, you guys could just be on the boat going and apologizing, but instead they put it in park. They grab a bag of popcorn and they just start. She starts apologizing. Just keep going. You're on the river. Go. What a waste of time. Anyway, Yasmina bails from the Sukumimus. She runs into the water and she's like, "Yeah, I'm safe. This thing can't get me." And then, hey, guess what? It swims. It looks like it looks like a lizard. That thing jumps in the water and comes after her. And one thing I do want to say is that her shirt, it actually looks wet, and that's a really hard thing to do, is to make fabric look actually wet, because it darkens a little bit, it gets a little bit heavier, and a lot of times they just put like water droplets on it or something like that and turn up the contrast or whatever, but it actually looks wet. So really, really good job of the animators for paying attention to that detail, because it is much appreciated. Like, her skin looks wet, her hair looks wet, and not in the way that it just looks like it's covered in like dew marks or anything. Like, it actually looks wet. I don't know how to describe it. Anyway, which is great. And of course, the Sukumimus goes into the water after her. You dummy. Even if it couldn't swim, that water's not that deep. It's a river. Even though they make it look really deep, because like the Sukumimus goes fully underwater and we see it from underwater and it looks like it's in the ocean, which is like, no dude, that river is like 10 feet deep max, and this thing's 14 feet tall. So she gets to the other side and she's safe. The Sukumimus can't get to her because she's behind like an uprooted tree. And then she sees eyes, and there's a lion. Oh great, now she has to fight a lion. Never mind, something ate the lions. Probably a big dinosaur. The lion's eyes fucking disappear. We hear it go, "Oh," and then it dies. So, literally, she cannot catch a break. But before I could even type "cannot catch a break" in my notes, we switch over and the boat's engines start dying. Every single thing is falling apart at once. Jesus Christ. Thankfully, apparently, they are caught up to where Yaz is now. And they're like, there she is. And the Sukumimus comes back, and the big dinosaur reveals itself, and it turns out to be the stub-nosed revolver dinosaur from the boat, and they start to have a showdown. And the Sukumimus loses that fight quickly and decisively, while Yasmina is able to get onto the boat and rejoin her friends, and they start moving upriver again. We switch back to the end of the episode, and we see that the broker is obviously knowing she can't trust Brooklyn in their new arrangement. Obviously, as if that was ever a question. So they're both skeptically looking at each other like, yeah, it's a tentative relationship. We can totally trust one another. So, that episode was good. I do like that episode decently. I like seeing the dinosaurs fight. But again, it suffers from the pace of the show is just too fast. So, like, they reveal a threat's taken care of. They reveal a threat's taken care of. She's safe in the water. No, she's not. It just goes so fast. And we still find time for like a standstill apology scene when you could have just had her been like, "Hey Zaina, I'm sorry for snapping at you," and Zaina been like, "Yeah, you're emotional, I get it," which is what she says to Darius at some point when he's just like, "Hey, don't mind my friend, she's emotional," and she's like, "Yeah dude, I know, I'm more mature than you, and I'm 14. Alright, so now we join into episode 8, and we're kind of developing Kenji's emotional status at this point. He opened up a little bit with Darius, he's opening up a little bit to everyone, but he's swinging back and forth like a pendulum, dude. So now instead of being totally reckless and trying to basically get himself killed all the time, now he's being incredibly cautious and telling other people that something isn't safe. So I'm just getting tired of the back and forth. It seems really inconsistent, and it doesn't seem genuine to the character. He is just flip-flopping. I mean, yeah, people do this, but it's just such a stark 180 that it's like, okay, I just roll my eyes at it. I keep rolling my eyes at a lot of stuff. But now for this episode, Camp Fam rolls up the hidden river to find a chicken farm crawling with a bunch of secrets. And Ben and Kenji kind of separate from the group as they head inside once they discover that there's like a hidden entrance. And they get inside and they get separated because there's two like really cool looking dinosaurs with like weird little head things, and I don't know what they're called. I don't care. But they break off their chains and they start chasing them, and then they get separated. Some of the crew goes in through like a door on the side that leads into like this concrete bunker, and then Ben and Kenji have like this giant, like the ground lifts up or rather, I think Ben and Kenji actually find the door, and then the bigger of the group, Sammy, Yaz, Darius, and Zaina, go down into like this big platform that raises up, revealing like a ramp going down into the ground. So they get separated, running from these dinosaurs, and every time they get separated, the bigger group of Darius, Zaina, Yaz, and Sammy go down, and like the ground closes above them. They're going underground and it closes, and they're like, "What about Ben and Kenji?" And then Sammy, I think, is like, "Hey, they'll be fine." It's like, you guys were just being chased by like raptors with rhino heads and are obviously carnivorous, and you didn't even see them get into a safe area, and you're just like, "Yeah, they're gonna be fine." What are you talking about? Nobody in their mind would go, "Yeah, two psycho dinosaurs are chasing us out there. We didn't see that they're safe, but they'll be fine. They'll be okay." No, that wouldn't happen. I hate that. It's so dumb. Like, you have no way of knowing that your friends are okay. Like, Ben could have just gotten impaled and had his throat ripped out in 1.5 seconds after that door shut, and you're like, "Dad, they're okay." Anyway, so now they're moving throughout this bunker, and they come across this like dino cloning area where you see a bunch of dinosaurs and cloning tanks, and then you see this giant pit in the ground, which obviously looks like a dinosaur cockfighting arena. And then we see the Captain Lang, the dude from the ship who is going to drown them. He shows up, and he's like, "Kids, what up, yo?" And he's kind of like testy, but he's also not like about to kill them like he was going to before. The Raptor shows up. The Raptor that I believe at this point now, Brooklyn and the Broker, they're on the same continent, they're in the same area as them, and now they're in the bunker, and the Raptor shows up, right? And they start getting chased by it, and what they decide to do is they start to use a ladder, and they drop down into the giant concrete pit that's obviously a gladiator arena. Why would you run from a raptor and drop into that pit? They don't take fall damage. Raptors are immune to fall damage. They have feather boots, okay? They have feather fall boots. He would jump down there, he would tear all of you to pieces, and then jump back up and climb the ladder and leave with a full tummy. But no, you guys drop down, and you kind of hide in the shadow of the arena because of the overhead lights. The raptor does a loop around, doesn't see you somehow, and then leaves, and goes after Lang, and now Lang is presumably killed. Now they're all down in this pit. And I had to make a note here that the creepy and suspenseful music for this show is so good. Like when they're in the pit and the raptor's kind of like lurking around, sniffing and looking for them, the suspenseful music is fucking top tier. It is great. I love it. So, wow, here we go. What a surprise. There's something hidden in the fighting arena pit. Crazy. A giant dinosaur's in there. And it kind of stalks out there. It's like a pale looking, like almost like the Indominus Rex, but smaller. And it has no fucking eyes. Excuse me? It has 0 eyes. It's just smooth skin. That is a nightmare. And its nose holes are a little bit weird. They look like they're a little bit further up, but I don't know if that's like normal, but I just noticed the nose holes were like halfway up its face. And it's so pale, and it's so weird, and it's kind of gross and creepy. Now as that thing's sniffing around for them, we realize obviously you can't see them, so they're all trying to be incredibly quiet. And then a container, like one of the containers from the ship, starts getting lowered down, and we realize, oh no, Geba is in the container. It starts crying for help, and Zaina's like, "No, my baby." So Geba's being lowered down, and we're like, where the fuck is this container coming from? I guess it's dinner time for this thing. And they start running around, the door opens, and Geba runs out, and Zaina's like, "Get back in that fucking container, you dumbass." They go inside the container. Darius gets left behind outside the container. The door's closed. The gate starts closing up. This dinosaur's running around trying to find them based on any kind of echolocation. The container starts being raised up without Darius inside. He jumps on, grabs the outside window of it, gets raised up. The dinosaur almost bites his legs off. He seems to be safe, and then the container kind of like jams a little and knocks Darius loose, and he falls down and lands on the dinosaur's back and kind of bounces off it. That's crazy. And then we switch away, and we see that Ben and Kenji are walking around, and they're safe, and they go and end up being into like an observation room where Ben's on one side and Kenji's on the other, and it's like a one-way mirror, so Ben can't see Kenji, but Kenji can see Ben, and Kenji's about to try to talk to Ben, trying to figure out like the communication microphone thing to speak inside, and then the fucking door opens, and Brooklyn walks in. And again, Ben, by the way, Ben found the briefcase with the eggs inside, So he's sitting there like, yeah, I found it. He's in there, and Kenji's looking at it like, oh, good, we got the eggs. And then Brooklyn fucking stumbles in and sees Ben. Drama will unfold, and that's where the episode ends. Because now Kenji's like, Brooklyn? And he's seeing her for the first time, and Ben's seeing her for, I guess, the second time, technically. And now they're both like, what the fuck? Episode 9. So we jump into the past before the Nublar 5 even arrive at the underground facility, before they arrive to like that chicken farm, and we see that Brooklyn and the broker, or B&B, they pull up first to it, and Lang is there, and Lang is just being himself and whatever have you. I wrote Lang is incredible, but I think that was a typing mistake, because I was just on my phone. I was not spell checking. So after those three go down into the bunker by way of, I think they drove their Jeep down into the ground that opens up, and Lang's walking like a pleb. Just as that fucking ground platform door thing closes, the Nublar 5 show up immediately, and just in time to miss it closing. Okay, so they arrive immediately. So this is where the timeline is. I thought there were whatever. So it's an incredibly tight timeline. So the broker switched down, and for some reason I said that the broker reminds me of the evil lady from The Incredibles, the one who's like tall and skinny and is working with syndrome or whatever, unrelated to anything. She just reminded me of her for a minute. So this dynamic between Brooklyn and the broker is honestly just not good. They obviously know the other's playing them, which I guess could be kind of the point, but it's not convincing to either. Like, you don't believe that either one would be even the slightest bit trusting toward the other, because it's so obvious they don't trust each other, but they still have to work together for the plot of the episode. So I don't know. I just don't like how this plot is carrying out. I've been vocal about it, that Brooklyn should have just killed the broker with a raptor when she had a chance and sent the raptor out the window, but I just don't like how they're working together. It just doesn't feel right. I feel like it could have been, the way we could have gotten here could have been a lot better, but I think if we actually did work with seeing Brooklyn betray her trust, or no, not betray her trust, but instead of like having the broker realize who Brooklyn was, maybe, I don't know, I just didn't like it. I know it needs to happen, but I don't like how we got here. Again, I think this suffers from the short episodes and the only 10 episode long season, but you gotta keep it simple for the kids that are watching. I know we just needed that direct line to advance the plot, but I still think it's kind of bad. So then we see a doctor, one of the African doctors there, Dr. Sarr, S-A-R-R, like Soar, Dinosaur, is a note that I wrote. So stupid. Brooklyn is not very stealthy and convincing with her secret photo taking. As they're walking through these labs, she's like taking full flash, audible snap photography with her cell phone of like the tanks and the computers and papers and stuff. Obviously it's not that obvious, but the way she's maneuvering is like, yeah, you're obviously taking pictures, dude. When the broker turns and sees you, you turn real quick, hide the phone behind your back, and give an unconvincing smile. Like it's that level of suspicious. So now we switch over and we catch up to where Brooklyn breaks off from the broker and finds Ben in that room with the briefcase of Bumpy's egg. So Ben and Brooklyn argue. I didn't take many notes for this part because I was trying to listen. Ben and Brooklyn argue about just like, I can't be, whatever, it's not safe, you need to get the fuck out of here, give me these eggs and leave. And you see Kenji see all this, and I don't remember right here if we see their confrontation. I think we do see Ben and Kenji's confrontation here, how he goes inside and just like, why the fuck didn't you tell me? And Ben's like, I couldn't tell you. And it's like, yeah, you could have, Ben, and it's really annoying and frustrating, but I think the emotions are on par for where they should be. And then we switch back over and we see that Darius was actually Darius. I don't know why I said Darius, I confused myself. Darius, when he falls back into the pit with the others inside of the container, and he's gonna basically get killed by a dinosaur, we see that it was actually Brooklyn the whole time who was controlling the container and trying to figure out the controls and maneuver it all with one fucking arm. And so she like zip ties her stub to one of the controls to maneuver it, and then uses her other hand to like lower it and stuff. And we see that it's her controlling the container, and ends up trying to like crush the dinosaur and give Darius a chance to get inside. He does eventually get inside the container and is rescued from that by Brooklyn. So she raises the container back up and it keeps them safe. And the container is like raised in the air. She leaves that room. She goes back down and reconnects with the broker, and they're walking into that the dungeon, not the dungeon, the pit fighting area where they just avoided the blind dinosaur, and it's the broker, Brooklyn, and Dr. Sar, who are all unaware that the kids are even in the container at all. They're trying to be quiet, which there's no way that Geba isn't screeching, and they're walking in, and Dr. Sar is like, let me show you my cool experiment of this blind fucking dinosaur. And they're like, wow, dude, that's pretty inhumane, but the broker's pretty excited about it. So as they're about to walk up, you're like, oh shit, the Nublar 5, they're about to see that Brooklyn's alive, because they're walking right into the room that they're above in the container. And they see her, and they're all staring in disbelief. They're like, is that Brooklyn? That looks like Brooklyn. Her hair's different. They're missing an arm. That can't be Brooklyn. There's no way. And whatever. Basically, you see them, quote-unquote, become best friends over killing the scientist, because the scientist is like, whatever, you need me, and blah, 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 and they end up they use Raptor to knock him into the pit, because they're like, well, yeah, whatever, we don't need you, and you're being really mean to me. So he falls into the pit, the blind dinosaur is like, whatever, and he runs into the dark, and we assume he's dead, and we see that Brooklyn and the broker are like, yeah, that was pretty sick. They knuckle touch, and they're like, we killed that guy in cold blood, that was awesome. And all the camp fam is like, we just saw what we assumed to be Brooklyn get excited, or rather be agreeing towards killing that scientist with a dinosaur with this person. What the fuck? So now they're gonna be pissed that she's alive and seemingly the antagonist. So now everyone knows that Brooklyn's alive, and Brooklyn and the broker and the raptor leave that area, and they're all up in the container, and they're like, what the fuck? So, and we also just hear Brooklyn hears that the broker is going to now nuke this entire facility to erase all evidence of it, I guess, for whatever reason, and they don't know. And the only one who knows Brooklyn's intentions are Ben, and not really Kenji. Kenji kind of like muted the microphone as he started to have a panic attack, so he couldn't hear half of what Brooklyn and Ben were arguing about. He just saw her, heard a few words, muted it, started to fucking freak out, and then went in there and confronted Ben. So Kenji doesn't know what Brooklyn's deal is, only Ben kind of does. Now we're moving on to the final episode. So episode 10, I didn't take a lot of notes for this because I was just trying to pay attention, but we see that the scientist is still alive, and he controls what I dubbed as the Blindosaurus by like snapping his fingers, because it works on the echolocation, so we kind of trained it to listen to certain sequences of snaps to do his bidding, I guess. So now, as he's walking through the darkness, because she like turns off all the lights because the broker knows that the camp kids are in there, and she's like, hey, the broker's under the impression that Brooklyn wants the camp friends to die because they abandoned her, they didn't come when she needed them the most, and so she's like convinced that, she's not convinced about it, but that's like the lie that Brooklyn has been spreading, so she doesn't care. So she's watching the kids maneuver through the dark, trying to find their way out of here, figure out what's going on with Brooklyn, and it's like, pitch dark. She turned off all the lights, and they're underground in a bunker. So the broker's watching the security system and sees the kids wandering in the dark, and we also see Dr. Sar walking through with his blind dinosaur, and they come across the raptor that's been sent out to kill the kids. And for a second, you see that Dr. Sar snaps his fingers, and the dinosaur clicks its tongue back at him, and is going to kill the raptor, but then the raptor starts clicking its tongue and doing a weird thing, and then you realize, oh no, they're communicating. The raptor's mimicking the snapping of his fingers, and understanding the commands, apparently, to command the Blindosaurus. So now the Blindosaurus and the raptor chase after him. Raptor just turned him on his boy. He just said, hey, fuck that human. He went, yeah, fuck that human. And they chase him into the dark, and we see that Brooklyn and the broker watch on the camera feed as the dinosaurs rip Dr. Sar to pieces, and Brooklyn has to look away. She's sickened and traumatized by it, and the broker's like, enjoying the show, obviously fucking with her, and the lights are completely out, and now the Blindosaurus and the raptor are both on the hunt. Or rather, actually, no, just the Blindosaurus is on the hunt because the broker recalls the raptor so it doesn't die in the nuclear explosion that she's about to set off. And as they're walking in the dark, with the broker having like night vision goggles and Brooklyn just kind of trusting her in the dark with a raptor right behind her as they're trying to find the exit, I'm just like begging and pleading that Brooklyn just snap her fucking neck and be done with it. And this is before the raptor shows up to them, but then the raptor shows up, so she misses her opportunity. So now we're walking through, we rejoin the group, and I love how Zaina uses the flashlight of her phone in the dark, and we can actually see dust particles in the air. Again, paying attention to the little details that make the environment feel less like Shrek the movie, where it's just a CG environment, right? So now, as they're walking through, with everyone rejoined together, there is zero chance that Geba isn't screeching the whole time, hearing something moving in the dark, being in the dark, and just whatever have you, being terrified. There's no way this dinosaur is not screeching around. Also, this is my worst nightmare. Being lost in the dark in a claustrophobic space, being hunted by a dinosaur that doesn't even need to see me. Fuck the shit out of that. Now, they encounter the Blindosaurus, and of course, as they're running, whatever have you, it's getting confused by all the noise all around it, so it can't lock onto a target. They eventually run and they find a door to hide behind, and the amount of doors that save them in dire situations in this show is unreal. It is absolutely unreal. They always find a door to save them, and it's fucking annoying. It's contrived at this point. And then as the raptor, I guess, apparently, I don't remember this, I guess the raptor shows up and Geba kicks the raptor in the head, which I found to be hilarious. I thought the raptor rejoined with them, but I guess it hasn't rejoined them yet. I can't remember, man. My notes, I didn't take as many notes as I thought to keep myself in total sequence, but here we are. So now, as the broker exits the building, Brooklyn shuts the door behind her and is going in to do something to save them. She pulls the fire alarm and to kind of give them a heads up to evacuate. So B went in to do that and then left with the broker right after, and apparently the broker doesn't know that she did that, even though if you pull the fire alarm, there would be alarms on the outside, I assume. Even though it's just a chicken farm, I'm sure there would be a couple of alarms going off outside as well, but whatever. So a few minutes pass, and we see that the broker blows up the building. And we did see the Nublar 5, except for Ben and Kenji, because they were still separated. We see Zaina, Sammy, Darius, Geba, and Yasmina. We see them escape, but we don't see Ben and Kenji. Obviously, they're not going to die, but like as far as we know, they were still inside trying to find a way out. So they stole, apparently, a Toyota Camry and drive out of the building before it blows up or whatever, in the rubble or whatever. They drive out and they just kind of fly, and they're like, oh shit, they're alive, and they left us behind. I guess they're doing something important. They're going to get Wendy's, I guess. So closing in the climax, Brooklyn goes with the broker on getting onto an airplane, and there's like a small car chase, whatever have you, before they get there, whatever have you. They arrive at the airplane, and everyone kind of meets up. And as Brooklyn's about to get on the plane, Kenji grabs her by the arm, gives her like the puppy dog eyes, and it's like, babe, you're alive, and you're going with her with the briefcase? Why are you taking the briefcase? What are you doing? And Brooklyn is like being observed by the broker as she's, being confronted by her friends, and as the broker wants to see, do you really hate them? Are you going to leave them behind? Are you going to betray me? What will you do, girl? And Brooklyn is really cold about it, and she's trying to keep her cover, even though there's no fucking cover. The broker knows you're not in it. She knows you're playing her. But she's super cold to her friends. She's giving them the cold shoulder. She's being really mean, and she breaks away from his hold, looks at all of her friends, and she gets on the plane. I know she wants to take down the broker, but surely she has enough evidence from all the photos she just took, from everything that they just went through, and everything that she heard and saw. She has enough to take down the broker legally. I mean, hell, she lost her fucking arm, right? So, like, she can see that she's been through the everything. And at the end, they take off in the plane, and we see that broker goes over to inspect the briefcase and sees that one egg is missing, and we cut over and we see that Kenji is holding Bumpy's egg. So she did leave her friends with a tiny bit of a clue that she's not totally heartless and evil, and there's, she's doing something. That is the end. Season 3? I guess I haven't thought about this, but my final thoughts to wrap all this up, I think Season 2 was good. I still think that so far, Chaos Theory is not holding a candle to Camp Cretaceous. I like the elements of Camp Cretaceous better. I like the people out of their element trying to survive. I like the, they're not good friends. They don't have a lot in common, but you see them starting to bond and in survival and how their differences kind of mesh. And a lot of that has kind of hollowed out now and is replaced by how they're grieving differently over Brooklyn's death and how they're adjusting differently to coming back to the real world. In Chaos Theory, we see Yaz and Sammy's, bond, but dynamic of Yaz avoiding everything and how she's on that dinosaur recovery traumatic island, and how Sammy's trying to give her space but gives her too much space because they don't know how to interact on that level yet. We see Darius and his feelings for Brooklyn struggling, how he interacts with her and how he interacts with his friends, and how he takes the opportunity to continue his knowledge of dinosaurs, joining the DWA or whatever it is, and then how that kind of falls apart. We see Ben just kind of going about doing his thing and still being like the string that connects all of his friends together, but whatever. And we see Brooklyn go down the rabbit hole and kind of abandon her relationship with Kenji. And Kenji, again, none of them knowing how to adjust to the world and interact with each other and how to intermingle their traumas and kind of spreading out a little bit. And I think, again, Brooklyn went way too deep in the rabbit hole, but I guess that was her coping, and that was her mind kind of going into overdrive on a specific thing. She just got too deep and she couldn't pull herself out of it. And I don't know, I like the dynamic of the first series better, but I am interested enough to see. I do like how the Brooklyn being dead thing and coming to light now, I like what that implies for the rest of the show, how everything's going to kind of crash and break apart and come back together. I am interested. I'm curious of how many seasons they're going to go with this, because I was surprised they went through 6 seasons with the first series. But yeah, I don't know. I can kind of see where things are going to be going. It's pretty predictable in my eyes how I think, Brooklyn's going to have to make a decision that saves Kenji or her friends with a broker watching. It's gonna make a decision to see her save them and then turn on the broker, and then she's like, I've been blah blah blah, I'm now joining my friends again. Broker will be like, ha 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 ha, I knew you would, and then throws like a King Ghidorah dinosaur at them that they then have to survive. And then at some point Brooklyn's gonna actually die, and Darius is gonna have to actually show up and be there for her and save her, and they're all gonna reconcile. Brooklyn's gonna break down and cry, and everyone's gonna have a big group hug, and it's gonna be stuff like that. Obviously I don't know how because we've changed so many antagonists in Camp Cretaceous. We had, what was it, I think it was the Indominus Rex was on the island, and we got to see Kenji become a bad guy. We had Kenji's dad being the big bad guy, and we saw all these mini villains take their turns at being the villain arc. And in series 2, we had Penis Head Lady who controlled the raptors with the whistle. We didn't see her once this season, as far as I know. We didn't see her once because I didn't make a note about it. I would have been excited. So I can't wait to see how she comes back into play, what her role will be, if there's somebody above the broker, because I'm sure there is. So overall, it's decent, not as good as the first season and not as good as the first series, but I am excited to see where it goes from here. So if you made it to the end of this, thank you so much for watching. Leave me your thoughts down below. Now, if you didn't know, I'm also a writer, and that's why I kind of look at these things in not like a unique way, but I can think about dumb things often because I think about dumb things to write. So if you want to see anything like that, I write books. I have a poetry collection book and whatever, all that's available on vengeancebooks.com. Check it out. Subscribe for more. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Check out my coverage of the first season and the first series. I covered the first series as a whole because I binged it all, but I'm taking this season by season because, yeah, that's what I'm doing. Anyway, this is Rambly. I'm bad at this. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.